going to tell you the truth about Denver International Airport. Not the conspiracy theories you read online, but the truth I saw with my own two hands. My name doesn't matter. What matters is that I was there. I was a structural steel foreman on the job in '92, and the minute I drove onto that desolate prairie, I knew this wasn't just an airport. It was a cover story. We were told we were building the future of American air travel. What we were really building was a $4.8 billion fortress, 5 times bigger than anything required, miles away from the city.
Ask yourself why.
We already had Stapleton, a perfectly good airport. They moved us out to this isolated, wind-whipped desert, not for efficiency but for seclusion. I remember looking up at those strange, tented peaks that would eventually form the roof. Everyone called them mountain peaks, but to us they looked like the fangs of a massive buried animal. The first red flag wasn't the schedule, though we were 16 months behind. It was the money. We were spending astronomical amounts, yet the work being done wasn't for the runways or the terminals. It was underground. They told us the vast excavation was for the world's most advanced baggage system. But even then, standing in those deep concrete trenches, we all whispered the same thing. No baggage system needs 5 stories of underground bunker. The concrete reinforcement we were pouring was thick enough for a nuclear silo, not a carousel. My crew was specifically ordered to seal off entire sections of the lower levels with thick, impenetrable concrete walls, areas that were supposed to be part of the live baggage system. We didn't build exits. We built barriers. We were paid premium overtime to make sure certain tunnels were never seen again. Why seal off functional space? Because the functional space wasn't for luggage. It was for something else entirely. But the most unsettling moment came during the official dedication. They gathered the politicians and the big brass to dedicate the Cornerstone. I remember looking at that slab of stone, shiny and pristine, and seeing the inscription, a reference to the New World Airport Commission, a group nobody had ever heard of, and the Masonic Grand Lodge. It was a signature, a boast, carved in stone. It was their way of saying, "We built this and you peasants will never know why." That day I realized the design rules weren't in the blueprints. They were written in secrecy and power. The money, the isolation, the unexplained tunnels, and the secretive inscription on the stone all added up to one undeniable conclusion. DIA is not a flawed piece of infrastructure. It is a brilliant piece of misdirection. The baggage system was the perfect lie, covering up the vast, hardened underground facility that was the true purpose of those billions of dollars. The truth is buried deep beneath the terminal floors. My job ended when the first wave of layoffs hit, but my knowledge didn't. I carry the memory of those empty concrete caverns every day. We now have the setting and the proof of deception, but the conspirators made a crucial mistake. They left their intentions written into the very fabric of the structure. In Part 2, I'll tell you about the crazy turnover of construction crews and the terrible truth about the land we built on, hinting at a connection to a buried past that the government desperately wanted to keep silent. In Part 1, you learned that the Denver airport was never about baggage. It was about building a bunker. I saw the fortified concrete, I sealed the tunnels, and I read the Masonic signature on the Cornerstone. But the real story of the conspiracy isn't just what they built. It's how they built it and how they intentionally created so much confusion that the public gave up asking questions. The official narrative blamed the 16-month delay and the $2 billion cost overrun on the faulty automated baggage system. That was the line we were all fed. But I was there. I watched that baggage system being installed, and it was a Frankenstein's monster from the start. It would tear suitcases to shreds, belts would jam constantly, and the robotic carts would crash into each other in the dark. It was a spectacular, very expensive failure. But my core belief, shared by the older foreman on the site, was that the system was designed to fail. Think about it logically. If you're building a highly secretive subterranean base, you need a plausible, visible reason to dig deeper, use mountains of concrete, and keep the public away. The world's most advanced baggage system was the perfect lie. It justified the vast multi-layered underground network. Once the structure was complete, the system was allowed to fail publicly. The city then did the most illogical thing imaginable. They spent hundreds of millions of dollars to scrap the technology and seal off the tunnels, the very tunnels my crew helped fortify. That sealing process was the true moment of revelation for many of us. We weren't just pouring concrete over tracks. We were sealing vast echoing spaces. One day, a few of us managed to slip into an area labeled Restricted Future Expansion. What we saw wasn't just a baggage area. We saw a cavernous space 5 stories deep with reinforced walls far exceeding any civilian building code. It was like looking into the ribcage of a buried giant. There were massive, unused air filtration systems and access points leading to deeper levels that were completely blocked by new, temporary-looking steel doors. We realized the tunnels we sealed were never meant for luggage. They were the entry points to the real facility. The sheer volume of earth moved for this project, millions of cubic yards, could only be explained if they were constructing a deep underground military base. D.U.M.B. The baggage system was the smoke and mirrors. The cost overrun wasn't due to incompetence. It was the true cost of constructing a subterranean bunker capable of surviving a major catastrophic event. The process of construction itself was riddled with intentional chaos. The general contractor turnover was relentless. I saw companies hired and fired for minor breaches or sometimes for no reason at all. Why? Because the project's real masters needed to ensure that no single worker or firm ever possessed the complete blueprint. The work was fractured and compartmentalized. My crew only knew about the steel beams. The electrical team only knew about the wiring. The excavation teams only knew about the depth. This was a classic strategy for a black project, maintaining secrecy through fragmented knowledge. But the lies weren't just in the tunnels and the budgets. They were rooted in the very ground we stood on. Denver already had Stapleton Airport. It was functional, centrally located, and efficient. So why spend billions to build on an isolated tract of remote prairie far from the city? The official line was expansion. The truth is often found in what the government wants you to forget. The prevailing rumor among the old-timers, the ones who lived in the area before the development, was that the site itself held a dark significance. Some claimed it was sacred ground for forgotten indigenous tribes, perhaps used for ceremonies or burial, which would explain the later influx of bizarre, ritualistic artwork. Others whispered that the land was chosen because of its unique geological position, possibly sitting over a critical energy source or, more frighteningly, a deep natural fault line, making it strategically vital for a command center designed for ultimate global resilience. The movement away from Stapleton was also suspicious. They didn't just close Stapleton, they effectively erased it. The closure was final, ensuring that all regional air traffic was funneled directly into this isolated new hub, giving the secret masters total control over the flow of people and goods in and out of the region. Stapleton was an inconvenient reminder of normalcy. TEA was built to dominate, to stand alone, to command. The chilling conclusion I reached during my time there wasn't just that they were hiding something, it was that the entire project, the location, the cost, the delays, the baggage fiasco, was all part of a calculated, multi-layered design rule created to guarantee 2 things: secrecy and total control. The public got a functional airport. The secret masters got their ultimate fortress. We now understand the scope of the deception and the immense infrastructure built underground. But the structure itself contains warnings. The architects, or whoever commissioned the true designs, couldn't resist leaving clues about their intentions. They carved their sinister plans not into the stone foundation, but into the very fabric of the public terminals. The clues are graphic, terrifying, and right above your head every time you wait for a flight. They are the mural warnings, a terrifying glimpse into the future they are preparing for us. In part 2, I told you how the vast wasted budget and the sealed tunnels were just the perfect lie to cover up the real construction happening beneath the Denver prairie. But the true masters of this project weren't content with merely hiding their actions. They felt the need to announce their intentions right on the surface. They left their signature for anyone with eyes to see, a dark promise carved into stone. The first piece of undeniable evidence that this airport was a global project, not a civic one, is the Cornerstone itself. Most airports have a simple dedication plaque, a nice message from the mayor. Not DIA, their Cornerstone is a declaration of power. I remember seeing it placed. It's a massive slab of granite, and if you look at the inscription, you won't find the names of local politicians or city council members. Instead, you find something far more chilling. The stone explicitly mentions the New World Airport Commission, an entity that officially does not exist, and the Masonic Grand Lodge of Colorado. Think about that. The builders openly admitted a connection to the Freemasons, one of the world's most secretive and influential organizations, and a totally fictitious global commission. Why? Because this was their boast. It was their way of saying, this is ours, and the rules of man don't apply here. The stone also holds a time capsule, a perverse little gift to the future, meant to be opened in 2094. What's in that capsule? A few pieces of currency, local artifacts, or the real blueprints. The very existence of the Masonic signature tells you the true design rule of the airport. This entire facility is built on occult geometry and secrecy. The Freemasons believe in using geometry and architecture to harness spiritual or symbolic power. The precise angles of the runways, the placement of the terminals, the dominating presence of those bizarre tent-like roofs, it's all designed to serve a purpose far beyond landing planes. It's designed to function as a geographical marker and perhaps a ritualistic beacon. But the secrets don't stop at the stone. They are etched into the terminal floor itself. I saw the flooring being laid down, a meticulous pattern of unusual symbols, cryptic letters, and designs that look less like decoration and more like a complex code. These aren't just random symbols. They include references to the periodic table, ancient scripts, and even phrases that seem to be lifted straight from the Rosicrucian manifestos. The architects couldn't help but be proud of their clandestine knowledge. They left their fingerprint everywhere. The terminal is covered in seemingly random letters. AUAG, that's not a common abbreviation. But if you look at the periodic table, AU is gold and AG is silver. Gold and silver, wealth. But some theorists believe it's a code for a biological agent, a terrifying possibility given the subsequent artwork. This brings us to the most chilling artifact of all, the one that first exposed the darkness beneath the airport's professional facade, the time capsule plaque. This isn't the main dedication stone, but another plaque placed nearby. While the official documents talk about peace and prosperity, this plaque is disturbing. It shows a series of interlocking lines and geometric patterns that, when mapped out by cryptographers, allegedly form the shape of a swastika, or a much more complex symbol related to ancient dark cults. Why would a modern American airport in the 1990s incorporate a symbol associated with hate and world destruction into its foundation? The constant, deliberate injection of these secret symbols, the Masons, the New World Airport Commission, the cryptic codes, is their challenge to the public. It's their way of saying, we are here, we are in control, and we don't care if you see it. The airport isn't just a physical structure. It's a textbook written in stone and steel, detailing the intentions of its secret builders. But the true horror lies in the fact that these cryptic markers are only the introduction. The real message, the terrifying plan they have for the world, isn't written in stone. It's painted on the walls, in massive, grotesque murals that completely contradict the airport's message of peace and travel. They are graphic, violent, and chillingly prophetic. I was there when those murals were unveiled, and the feeling wasn't pride. It was pure, sickening dread. Those murals are the heart of the mystery, the smoking gun that exposes the globalist agenda. They are not art. They are a direct warning. In Part 4, I will take you through the terminal, step by step, and show you the true terrifying message hidden in the Denver airport murals. A message of biological warfare, population control, and the end of civilization as we know it. It is the most disturbing piece of evidence that the curse of the design rules is not just about buildings, but about the future they plan for us. In Part 3, I showed you the signature of the Globalists, the Masonic Cornerstone, the fake commission, the codes etched into the floor. That was their boast, their quiet admission of ownership. But their true intentions for the future were not hidden in cryptic symbols. They were painted huge and vivid onto the terminal walls right above the baggage claim. I saw these murals go up, and the atmosphere on the site shifted from confusion to pure existential dread. These aren't happy travel posters. These are prophetic warnings. A visual blueprint for the apocalypse they believe is coming, or perhaps the one they are planning to engineer. They are the smoking gun. Every time you stand near baggage claim at DIA, you are standing beneath a terrifying graphic depiction of world destruction and mass depopulation. The official titles are soft: peace and harmony, the end of war, but the images themselves tell a story of grotesque violence and control. Let's start with the first panel, often called the Green Monster or Peace and Harmony. It dominates the wall with bright, impossible colors, but the scene is sickening. The central figure is a massive, menacing soldier, wearing a gas mask, not the standard American military mask, but a mask highly reminiscent of the gas masks worn by German forces during the World Wars. This figure looms over a line of defeated, mourning people from every corner of the globe. The message is clear: the victory is not peace. It's militaristic domination under a single non-national authority. Look at the victims in that mural. Women are clutching dead children, their faces contorted in grief. Soldiers, presumably the forces of freedom, are lying dead, covered by the dust and debris of a defeated civilization. The gas mask figure is symbolically driving the human spirit down, using a huge sword to force a dove of peace into a symbolic coffin. But the most disturbing detail is the message at the bottom: children handing swords to the masked leader. This isn't about adults choosing peace. It's about the new generation being conditioned to surrender to a totalitarian world order. The gas mask is key. It screams biological warfare or widespread environmental catastrophe. The mood then transitions dramatically to the second panel, titled The End of War. If the first mural depicts the outcome, this one depicts the method. It shows a vast graveyard of humanity. The central image is a field of ruins and debris, littered with the bodies of men, women, and animals. But the focus is on the children. Children are the primary victims. You see 3 coffins, one depicting a girl from a distant tribe, one depicting a black child, and one depicting a child from a European culture. These coffins are not closed. They are exposed, symbolizing the mass extermination across all races and cultures. Dominating this scene is a small group of children, the survivors, but they are huddled around the central figure of a German soldier, now stripped of his mask, looking exhausted but victorious. He's surrounded by dead animals, extinct wildlife, and the ruins of culture. The implication is staggering. The New World Order will rise from the ashes of a catastrophic event, likely one they engineered, using the guise of a peacekeeping force or perhaps a surviving faction from a defeated power. The goal isn't to save humanity. It's to cull the population and restart civilization under their complete control. This is the heart of the depopulation conspiracy theory, a visual guide to the global elite's dark intentions. But the murals aren't done. They become even more personal and chillingly specific. In another section, we see a letter written by a young girl, often interpreted as the voice of the innocent. But the letter is not one of hope. It describes the horrors. Mankind is no more. The text is set against a backdrop of the extinction of animals, the destruction of vast cities, and a sky filled with dark chemical clouds. The mural directly hints at a future where the world is choked by disease or manufactured disaster, leaving only the selected few, the masters of the underground, to survive. My colleagues and I saw these panels being installed. Piece by piece, and the workers grew quieter. We were building a massive complex intended for public use, yet the art chosen for it was pure, terrifying apocalypse. This wasn't bad taste. This was intentional psychological warfare. It was meant to normalize the idea of a great calamity and a totalitarian cleanup. It was meant to make people subconsciously accept the necessity of the deep underground military base, D.U.M.B, that we were constructing, below their feet. The artwork functions as the visual bridge between the secrecy of the basement and the public facade. The design rule here is that the globalists are so arrogant, so confident in their success that they feel they can flaunt their plan in the faces of the masses. They see the murals as a warning, but also as a guarantee. Every time a new passenger glances at the horrific scene of mass graves and gas-masked soldiers, the message is subtly reinforced. The power dynamic has shifted, and the future belongs to those who control the air filtration systems and the bunker keys. The overwhelming evidence from these murals, the German soldier, the focus on dead children, the themes of engineered disaster, makes the $4.8 billion spent on the airport seem like a paltry investment for the complete reorganization of human society. The airport isn't waiting for a disaster. The artwork suggests it's prepared for one they create. We've seen the architectural signature in the painted prophecy. But there's one other piece of art at DIA, One single, massive statue that combines the airport's terrifying vision with a very real, very bloody curse. It's a blue, fiery-eyed monster that has become the physical mascot of the airport's darkness, a symbol that has literally claimed the life of its creator. And I'll show you why that statue is the final, undisputed proof that this airport is cursed by its own design rules. In Part 4, I expose the terrifying prophecies hidden in the DIA murals, the gas-masked soldiers, the mass graves, and the chilling visual evidence of a planned depopulation. The murals are the painted warning, but the airport needed a physical mascot, a guardian to preside over their dark agenda. They chose a horse, a gigantic demonic blue horse that stands sentinel right outside the main terminal. This is not just a statue. This is Blucifer, the airport's terrifying blood-soaked symbol. Its official name is Blue Mustang, but no one calls it that. It is a 32-foot-tall electric blue fiberglass behemoth, and every single detail about it screams occult and malevolence. The statue's muscles are bulging, its veins are prominent, and its coat is an unsettling, unnatural cerulean blue. But the most terrifying feature is its eyes, two flickering demonic red lights that glow intensely at night. It looks less like a proud American Mustang and more like a creature straight out of the Book of Revelation, a horse of the apocalypse. The moment Blucifer was installed, the public reacted with immediate revulsion. Denver is a city that loves its art, but this piece felt wrong, almost intentionally repulsive. It was a massive, expensive piece of public art that seemed designed to create distress, not beauty. But for those of us who knew about the conspiracies beneath the terminal, Blucifer was the final, undeniable proof that the design rules were cursed. The horse is positioned directly on the road leading into the main airport entrance, a towering, intimidating figure watching every passenger who arrives. The chilling connection between Blucifer and the DIA conspiracy is amplified by the sheer, undeniable tragedy surrounding its creation. The artist was Luis Jimenez, a respected but intense sculptor. While working on the massive statue in his studio, a massive section of the horse, the upper torso and head, suddenly broke loose and crushed him to death. It was a horrifying freak accident. The artist was killed by his own creation. Think about the symbolism. The guardian of the airport's secrets demanded a physical sacrifice before its unveiling. The conspiracy theorists had a field day, and honestly, they had every right to. The death of the artist confirmed the deep, sinister energy that surrounded the project. It wasn't just a statue. It was a talisman consecrated in blood. The legend grew. The airport demanded a sacrifice to activate its curse, and Blucifer, the gatekeeper of the underground tunnels and the apocalyptic murals, had taken its toll. The statue isn't a piece of art. It is a marker of dark power. But the terrifying symbolism doesn't end with the artist's death. The horse itself is linked to the four horsemen of the apocalypse, figures often depicted in various stages of destruction. In Aztec and Mayan mythology, horses are also often seen as symbols of war and destruction brought by invaders. Given the themes of mass death and warfare in the murals we discussed in Part 4, Blucifer is the physical embodiment of the airport's violent intent, a massive, aggressive creature welcoming passengers to the site of their potential demise. Even more disturbing is the history of the materials. Jimenez was known for using intense fiberglass and lighting to give his works a feeling of kinetic energy. But Blucifer's eyes, those glowing, malevolent red eyes, are a technological feature that unnerves everyone. Why red? Red signifies anger, danger, and demonic influence. It transforms the beautiful Mustang into a watcher, a tireless sentry for the subterranean facility, ensuring that the design rules are maintained and the secrets below remain undisturbed. The combined evidence, the Masonic Cornerstone demanding allegiance, the murals depicting extinction, and the demonic horse claiming its creator's life, creates a cohesive narrative of a globalist occult project. The people who built the multi-billion-dollar bunker beneath the terminal did not do so purely out of military necessity. They did so with a spiritual and ideological commitment to a dark future, a commitment they displayed openly for the world to question. The question is no longer if the airport is concealing something. The question is what kind of rituals or dark ideology required the installation of such an openly malevolent symbol at the gateway of American air travel. Blucifer is the final, terrifying piece of the puzzle on the surface. reminding every visitor that they are entering a place marked by death and design control. We have seen the signature and the prophecy. Now we must dive back down. The real heart of the mystery is not the art on the walls, but the sheer size and complexity of the structure beneath your feet. The builders left evidence of the tunnels and sealed rooms everywhere, but what were they really for? In Part 6, I will take you into the architecture itself, revealing the physical evidence of gargoyles and strange structural anomalies that hint at the true, terrifying subterranean purpose of the Denver airport. I've shown you the Masonic signature in the Cornerstone and the demonic, blood-soaked symbol of Blucifer, the horse that claimed its own creator. But the most unsettling evidence of the airport's true purpose isn't just in the big, obvious pieces. The design rules of the Globalists required them to weave their dark intent into the very fabric of the building, in the hidden corners, the shadows, and the innocuous-looking displays. Let's move inside the terminals, past the check-in desks and the usual airport bustle. Look at the art that fills the public spaces. It's not just the murals that are disturbing. It's the sheer number of grotesque, non-secular, and often violent pieces that scream occult ceremony rather than modern transit hub. This relentless injection of strange, dark art suggests that the airport has a spiritual agenda, a mission to serve a power beyond any recognized government or deity. I want to focus on the things the average traveler misses, the subtle horrors hidden in plain sight. Take the gargoyles. Why on earth would a major American airport in the 1990s feature gargoyles, medieval sculptures designed to ward off evil spirits, traditionally placed on churches? At DIA, you find two large bronze gargoyles seated inside a mock-up of a luggage suitcase, mounted near the gates. They are there, watching you, observing the passengers. The official explanation? Whimsical art about protecting your luggage. The reality? They are sentinels. They are there to guard the massive secret facilities beneath the terminal from unwanted spiritual or physical intrusion. This detail isn't about whimsy. It's about occult architecture. These gargoyles are a spiritual alarm system, suggesting that whatever is happening in the sealed-off areas below, the bunkers and the multi-story facilities, is so sensitive, so sacrilegious that it requires demonic guardians to stand watch. Why would a modern structure need medieval protectors, unless the forces they are dealing with are themselves ancient and powerful? Now consider the floor. Beyond the Masonic codes and the AUAG symbols I mentioned earlier, the flooring features countless fossil inlays and cryptic petroglyphs. These are representations of extinct animals and symbols, borrowed directly from the ancient rituals of the local Native American tribes. This suggests a deeper, almost ritualistic connection to the land itself, a recognition of the site's dark, powerful history. It's as if the designers are trying to claim the power of the land by incorporating its ancient, forgotten symbols into their new structure. But the bizarre religious elements extend far beyond mere sculpture. The airport architecture seems to deliberately invoke images of pagan temples and mysterious cults. Those massive tent-like peaks on the roof, the ones that make the airport look like the lair of a giant beast, they are structured with deliberate, high-arching points, reminiscent of the pyramids of ancient Egypt or the ziggurats of Mesopotamia. These shapes, according to ancient occult beliefs, are designed to channel energy, cosmic or telluric energy, downwards. The entire roof structure is a massive multi-billion-dollar energy collector, focusing power onto the secret nexus point deep in the bunker below. The money we wasted, the time we lost, the chaos we endured, none of it was random. It was all a calculated method of construction designed to mask the true purpose, building a massive occult structure designed for ultimate control. The builders were using our tax dollars to construct a globalist fortress that functions not just as an air hub, but as a potential religious military command center. Think about the juxtaposition. You have the ultimate symbol of modern democratic freedom, an international airport, filled with the ultimate symbols of totalitarianism, apocalypse, and demonic guardianship. The children depicted in the murals are being slaughtered while gargoyles sit nearby, laughing from their suitcases. This isn't irony. This is a statement of dominance. My time working on the site ended, but the image of those sealed tunnels and the demonic art never left me. I know what was hidden, and I know why it was hidden. The final, most damning proof of the airport's true purpose lies in the architectural structure that justified the cost and complexity of the entire operation. The endless, unused underground network. I've seen the steel doors and the massive empty air shafts that lead to nowhere a passenger should ever go. These are the physical realities of the conspiracy, the evidence that they were preparing not for a few delayed flights, but for a global event. The gargoyles are watching the entrances. The blue Mustang is watching the roads, and the globalists are waiting in the wings. In Part 7, I'm going to take you back down. We will analyze the physical evidence of the multi-story subterranean tunnels and the rumors of sealed-off facilities that point to one undeniable conclusion. DIA is the ultimate deep underground military base, D.U.M.B, a fortress for the elite built right under your nose. In Part 6, I showed you how the globalists put their spiritual signature, the gargoyles and the pagan geometry, right on the surface. But the murals and the statues are just the bait. The true heart of the conspiracy, the reason for the billions of dollars spent and the months of delays, lies deep beneath the tented roof. It lies in the vast, unnecessary subterranean network that I, and dozens of other confused crew members, helped build. The moment you step below the terminal floor, the design rules change completely. The simple logic of an airport disappears, replaced by the chilling, rigid requirements of a fortified military installation. The official excuse was the automated baggage system, but my crew knew better. We worked on the lower levels, and we saw the evidence that points to one inescapable conclusion. DIA is the ultimate deep underground military base, or D.U.M.B. Think about the sheer scale. We weren't building one basement. We were building multiple subterranean levels, extending far deeper than any commercial airport requires. The tunnels themselves are wide, reinforced with concrete and steel designed to withstand enormous pressure. Pressure from an event far worse than a heavy snowstorm. There are massive, unused sections where the air ducts are enormous, designed to filter air for thousands of occupants, not a few hundred baggage carts. We sealed off entire echoing caverns that were fully wired and ventilated, yet remained completely empty, ready for something, or someone, to move in. I recall one specific area, supposedly designated for a future train maintenance yard. We were told to pour concrete for a simple maintenance bay. What we actually poured was a 5-story deep, hardened vertical shaft extending down into darkness. My foreman joked it was a fast-track elevator to China, but the reality was grim. That shaft was designed as a secret entry point to a deeper, more specialized facility, a facility that the public could never know about. The most damning physical evidence lies in the track systems installed in those unused tunnels. They were built to handle heavy, rapid transit, not small luggage carts. Some of the tracks, visible before they were sealed, were wide gauge and robust, suggesting they were intended for military vehicles or high-speed subways, designed to move personnel and equipment quickly and secretly across massive distances underground. This confirmed the rumors we often heard. The DIA bunkers are not isolated. They are linked to a massive, sprawling underground network that may connect to other strategic government facilities, possibly even NORAD in Colorado Springs. The chaos in construction, the hiring and firing of countless contractors, now makes perfect sense. The globalists needed the work done, but they couldn't risk letting any single crew piece together the map of the D.U.M.B. I only saw the concrete walls. Another crew saw the massive unused water reservoirs. A third crew saw the specialized communications hub. This was a conspiracy maintained by compartmentalization, a classic intelligence tactic. During construction, the sightings and strange incidents became common knowledge among the workers. Men spoke of seeing unmarked, high-security vehicles entering and exiting the site at 3 a.m., vehicles that had no connection to the published schedule or known contractors. Others reported hearing strange, rhythmic, metallic sounds emanating from the newly sealed areas, sounds of massive machinery still operating, long after the official work was supposed to be complete. The greatest fear, however, was born from the ventilation and air filtration systems. They installed an industrial-scale complex system of air scrubbers and deep earth intakes, capable of filtering biological or chemical agents. This level of environmental defense is overkill for an airport. It is standard operating procedure for a survival bunker. The message was terrifyingly clear. The people who commissioned DIA are preparing for a world where the air is toxic, where the surface is uninhabitable, and where only the elite, those who know the true design rules, will be safe. The tunnels are not an accident. They are the final confirmation of the apocalyptic visions painted on the murals. They are the physical evidence that the globalists and the shadowy organizations referenced on the Cornerstone, the Masons and the New World Order, have built their ultimate fortress. They have constructed a sanctuary designed to withstand the very calamities they hinted at in their art. The airport is the beautiful, functional shell, masking the 5-story deep command center beneath it. I have shown you the structural lies, the religious symbols, the prophetic warnings, and now, the physical evidence of the subterranean military complex. But the story is not over. The true intent of the design rules requires a human voice, a face to the control. In Part 8, we will move beyond the steel and concrete and analyze the most chilling theory of all, the purpose of the base. Why build a fortress if not for control? We will dive into the whispers that suggest the DIA is not just a bunker for survival, but a massive, temporary holding facility designed for the population they plan to leave behind. I've shown you the fortified tunnels, the endless sealed sections, and the massive industrial-grade air filtration systems designed to scrub biological agents. The physical evidence from Part 7 confirms that the Denver airport is a deep underground military base, or D.U.M.B, but a D.U.M.B is just a tool. We have to ask the critical, terrifying question: what is the facility's true mission? Why did the globalists spend billions to build a fortress large enough to house a small city? The theory among those of us who saw the blueprints and sealed the walls is chillingly simple. The facility is designed for elite survival and population control. The airport is not a bunker for everyone. It is a sanctuary specifically designed for the global elite, government officials, and key personnel, those who know the true design rules and are prepared for the coming apocalypse that the murals already predicted. Think back to the apocalyptic murals we analyzed in Part 4: the gas-masked soldier, the mass graves, the widespread destruction. The people who commissioned that art are preparing for a world where the surface is uninhabitable, choked by engineered disease or nuclear fallout. The subterranean base offers them safety, power generation, and complete detachment from the chaos above. The isolated location, miles from Denver, ensures that the desperate masses cannot reach the facility when the time comes. The most disturbing aspect is the sheer scale of the unused space I mentioned. Those 5-story deep caverns and reinforced tunnels weren't built just for storage. They were built for holding. Whispers circulated among the construction crews, whispers that were quickly suppressed, suggesting that the D.U.M.B serves a dual purpose. First, as a command center for the New World Order, allowing them to manage the remnants of the global crisis. Second, and far more sinisterly, as a massive temporary holding facility. Holding for whom? The answer is terrifying. The non-essential population they plan to leave behind. The D.U.M.B theory suggests that when the global collapse begins, whether by viral outbreak, financial crash, or war, the facility will be used to process, categorize, and control the masses attempting to flee. The massive wide-gauge rail systems we saw weren't just for moving equipment. They could be used for mass transport of people to and from various sectors of the underground network. The psychological design of the airport itself supports this idea of population management. Every element of the terminal, the overwhelming size, the lack of human warmth, the bizarre and disturbing artwork, is designed to make the average person feel small, insignificant, and under surveillance. It's architectural intimidation, setting the stage for a society where individual freedom is obsolete and centralized authority is absolute. The airport is a visual cue to the public about the future they are being prepared for. I recall a particular incident where a colleague and I stumbled upon a section labeled Quarantine Protocol Z. It was a vast area near the foundation that had specialized decontamination showers and airlocks, far beyond anything required for customs or baggage. It looked like something built for a military biowarfare unit. The foreman quickly sealed off the area, warning us that mentioning it would cost us our jobs. It was one more piece of proof that the true design rules prioritized biological control and survival from airborne threats. The fact that the airport's entire security and operations are managed by a central, powerful hub strengthens the conspiracy. This level of integrated top-down control is essential for a military command center, not a commercial airport. The true masters of the D.U.M.B can, at any moment, seal off the surface entries, activate the advanced filtration systems, and effectively disappear, leaving the world above to face the chaos they were so meticulously preparing for. This is the heart of the curse. The airport is a testament to the global elite's lack of faith in humanity. They built their ark, their safe harbor, but they did so in plain sight, mocking the public with symbols and secrets, justifying their existence with lies about luggage. The true cost of the Denver airport was not just $4.8 billion. It was the cost of our freedom and our future, traded for the security of a chosen few. The question remains, who are these secretive masters? The Cornerstone mentioned the Masons, but the plot runs deeper. The architects, the engineers, the decision-makers, they all have names and they all have allegiances. In Part 9, we move beyond the structure and dive into the ideology and the leaders who funded this monumental conspiracy. We will connect the dots between the esoteric symbols and the documented organizations that secretly drive the agenda of the New World Order, exposing the names who believe they have the right to decide humanity's fate. In Part 8, we establish that the Denver airport is a deep underground military base designed for elite survival and potential population control. The facility's scale and its advanced defense systems prove it's an ark for the global elite. But who are these elites? Who wrote the design rules and financed a project so vast it risked bankrupting an entire city? The answer lies in the symbols we uncovered and the ideology they represent, the New World Order. Think back to the Cornerstone I mentioned in Part 3. It explicitly named the Masonic Grand Lodge and the New World Airport Commission, an entity that doesn't officially exist. This isn't just a friendly nod to a local fraternal order. The Freemasons throughout history have been accused of being the shadow architects of global power structures. Their presence on the foundation stone is a declaration that the airport's true purpose is rooted in occult geometry and a hierarchical, secretive power structure. The New World Airport Commission, the fictional name carved into the granite, is the most obvious key to the entire conspiracy. This phrase is a direct mocking reference to the New World Order, NWO theory. The belief that a secretive elite is pulling the strings of global government, aiming to establish a single totalitarian world authority. By carving this name into the foundation, the builders essentially confessed their allegiance. They were announcing to those who understand the code, this is our base of operations for the coming global transition. The NWO's core objective, as depicted visually in the Apocalyptic murals, is depopulation and centralized control. The murals show massive destruction and the rise of a single military authority, the gas-masked soldier. The D.U.M.B serves as the perfect logistical tool for this agenda. It provides a secure center for global governance during a manufactured or natural crisis, and a safe harbor for the select few chosen to survive and rule the post-apocalyptic world. The money trail also supports the involvement of secretive international organizations. The cost overruns were staggering, yet the funding never seemed to dry up. The speed and efficiency with which contractors were silenced and new funding was secured suggests a source of capital that operates outside the normal legislative checks and balances. This points directly to the wealthy, interconnected families and corporations often linked to NWO theories, individuals who see themselves as the rightful custodians of humanity's future. Furthermore, the symbolism of chaos and renewal is woven deeply into the airport's art. The statues, the gargoyles, the apocalyptic scenes, they are not random. They are based on esoteric and often pagan belief systems that focus on cyclical destruction leading to a golden age ruled by the enlightened. The designers believed they weren't just building an airport. They were building a temple to a new form of global control, hence the need for gargoyles to guard the underground secrets. I recall a strange period during construction when security became impossibly tight around the areas where those bizarre murals were being painted. We, the construction workers, were treated like necessary, unthinking laborers, given pieces of the puzzle but never the full picture. The security personnel were not airport contractors. They were unmarked, private security forces with a military bearing. Their presence confirmed that the most sensitive parts of the project, the artistic declaration of intent, were guarded by a force loyal to the conspiracy, not the city of Denver. The combination of the Masonic signature, the apocalyptic art, and the construction of an enormous survival bunker proves that the design rules were dictated by a single, powerful, and terrifying ideology: the belief that they possessed the right to cull and control the human population for the supposed benefit of the planet. DIA is their operational headquarters, a tangible asset in their goal to transition the world into a centralized autocracy. The terrifying thing about this specific conspiracy is that the globalists are not hiding their actions in secret meetings. They built their bunker, painted their prophecy, and carved their allegiance directly into the foundation. They are confident that the sheer scope of the lies, the billions spent, the complexity of the tunnels, the absurdity of the art, will be enough to keep the masses paralyzed by disbelief. The curse of the design rules is the curse of arrogance. We now know the who and the why. The secretive organizations with an NWO agenda. The final pieces of evidence involve the human cost of this project, the individuals who spoke up, and the chilling truth they revealed before they were silenced. In Part 10, I will share the critical stories and supposed confessions from former employees and investigators who tried to blow the whistle on the DIA conspiracy, forcing us to confront the reality that the silence surrounding this airport is not accidental, but actively maintained. The conspiracy is sealed in concrete and painted in prophecy, orchestrated by the forces of the New World Order we identified in Part 9. But no secret remains absolute forever. Every major conspiracy depends on the silence of hundreds, and inevitably, some voices break through the control. The final critical pieces of evidence surrounding the Denver airport are not found in the ground or on the walls, but in the desperate whispers of the people who worked there, the whistleblowers, the former employees, and the disillusioned contractors who saw too much. My own knowledge, as a foreman on the site, was fragmented, a deliberate tactic of the builders. But when we talked, when we gathered for coffee off-site, away from the constant, watchful eyes of the unmarked security forces, the pieces started to fit together. The narratives of the different crews converged on the same core truth. The airport's deepest layers were not built for commercial aviation. One chilling account came from an older electrician who worked on the ventilation systems. He confessed that the electrical load and the backup power grid installed in the deepest sections of the construction were designed to support a small, fully self-sufficient city, not a transit hub. He described multiple layers of redundant power systems, including diesel generators and specialized connection points for external energy sources, all necessary for a D.U.M.B preparing for a prolonged global blackout. He was told he was wiring the baggage control. He knew he was wiring an apocalypse survival center. Another profound piece of emotional evidence involved the air filtration units. A former HVAC contractor claimed his crew installed advanced chemical and biological air scrubbers in the lowest, most restricted tunnels, systems designed to remove viral agents and radioactive particles from the air intake. He asked his supervisor why an airport needed protection against biowarfare, and the supervisor simply told him to do your job and keep quiet. The fear of speaking out was immense. These contractors were often well paid, but they lived under the constant, silent threat of losing their careers, or worse. Perhaps the most widely circulated and most chilling story involves the strange sounds emanating from the newly sealed tunnels. Multiple accounts from custodians and maintenance workers in the first year of operation spoke of hearing rhythmic, metallic pounding and heavy machinery running deep underground, long after all construction was officially complete. These sounds weren't the echoes of maintenance. They sounded like deep drilling or heavy construction still underway, far beneath the airport's operational levels. This suggests that even after the initial cover story was launched, the true D.U.M.B continued to expand its subterranean network, linking to other classified sites and perhaps even deeper bunkers. There was also the baffling mystery of the 5 unmarked buildings, massive structures built on the prairie during the initial construction phase, which were then completely buried and never used. The official excuse was that they were test buildings for the faulty baggage system, but whistleblowers whispered that these buildings were test runs for biocontainment or specialized isolation units. Once the prototypes were approved, the full-scale construction was moved underground, and the surface structures were simply covered with layers of earth and grass, leaving massive, empty, sealed concrete boxes beneath the prairie surface. This recurring theme of burial is crucial. The conspirators behind DIA did not just hide things. They actively concealed them using layers of earth and cement, creating a physical and metaphorical wall of silence. The construction team was building a secret world, and they were told to forget it as soon as their shift ended. The cumulative weight of these personal testimonies breaks the official silence. They confirm the structural evidence: the airport is a fortress. They confirm the artistic evidence: the fortress is meant for survival during an engineered catastrophe. And most importantly, they confirm the ideological evidence. The conspiracy is actively being maintained by a powerful, shadowy force determined to silence anyone who speaks the truth. The final piece of the puzzle connecting the surface paranoia to the underground reality is the question of security. I remember the private, unmarked cars, the guards who never wore the airport logo, and the impossible amount of surveillance. This was protection not against terrorism, but against us, the builders. They were protecting the secret of the design rules. Now we have all the components of the case: the architectural lies, the artistic prophecies, and the human witnesses. In Part 11, we will analyze the final, chilling piece of evidence: the language and the coded phrases embedded in the murals and on the airport's flooring. We will confront the idea that the airport is not merely a political statement, but a ritualistic curse, demanding submission from all who pass through its gates. This is where the conspiracy shifts from the political to the spiritual and ideological, the most terrifying element of the Denver airport's curse. We've established the physical reality of the bunker, the apocalyptic warnings painted on the walls, and the human confessions about the secrecy. But the final, most unsettling piece of evidence is the realization that the Denver airport is not merely a political statement. It is a ritualistic curse. The designers weren't just building a fortress for the New World Order. They were consecrating it with ancient coded language and dark religious ideology. This brings us back to the seemingly innocuous floor inlays and plaques scattered throughout the terminal. These aren't random decoration. They are linguistic and numerical codes left by the NWO to communicate their global domination through symbols that predate modern civilization. I recall seeing peculiar phrases in Latin, a language rarely used in modern public works, and cryptic references to ancient figures. This use of Latin, the language of the Roman Empire and the Church, suggests an attempt to assert a sense of eternal, unwavering authority over the masses. The most famous code is the pair of letters seen repeated in the floor: AUAG. As a construction worker, I saw this laid out again and again. Initially, everyone thought it was some kind of strange abbreviation, but cryptographers have long pointed out the disturbing connection to the periodic table. AU is gold, AG is silver. Gold and silver, wealth, power, a simple boast of the financial elite who funded the construction. But there is a far darker chemical interpretation. In some corners of the conspiracy community, these symbols are linked to biological warfare agents, a chilling possibility given the specialized air filtration systems we installed deep underground. The use of coded language extends to the seemingly random, geometric patterns and directional markers. When analyzed by those familiar with Masonic geometry and esoteric numerology, the patterns allegedly align with specific astrological events or occult calendar dates. The entire terminal is built as a massive, subtle sundial or astrological tool, designed to harness specific energies. This suggests that the timing of the construction, the date of its opening, and even the future activation of the D.U.M.B are all tied to a dark, predetermined ritualistic calendar. We must also revisit the art through a linguistic lens. The blue Mustang, Blucifer, is not just an ugly statue. It is a symbol of the Antichrist, or the pale horse of death, from the biblical book of Revelation. The curse placed on the airport, and the blood sacrifice of its own creator, is linked to the idea that this structure must be ritually consecrated to its dark purpose. The repeated appearance of this apocalyptic symbology in the art and architecture is the designer's spiritual contract. They are serving forces beyond the political and military, forces that require submission. The most disturbing linguistic evidence comes from the gargoyles themselves. The choice of these medieval guardians, traditionally placed to ward off evil spirits from churches, is a powerful contradiction. Why use these symbols of religious protection in a facility tied to a new world order, seeking to dismantle established religion? The theory suggests a spiritual inversion. They are not warding off evil. They are guarding the evil within. The gargoyles stand watch over the secrets, ensuring that the dark ideology buried beneath the prairie floor is not exposed by external, righteous forces. The arrogance of the globalists is immense. They believe that by openly carving their intentions into the structure, using codes they believe only they can understand. They have spiritually validated their power. The use of dead languages and esoteric symbols is a way of saying, "Your modern world is over. We speak the language of the ages and we control the future." Every passenger who walks through that terminal is walking on a blueprint of human subjugation, encoded in language they cannot read. My time on the site showed me that the complexity wasn't just physical, it was ideological. The architects were not just following building codes. They were following occult design rules. They were creating a structure that was simultaneously a functional airport, a military bunker, and a temple dedicated to global control. The curse of the design rules is the final, terrifying realization that the forces controlling our planet are not just governmental or financial. They are deeply spiritual and ritualistic. We now have all the pieces: the structural proof, the artistic prophecy, the human testimony, and the linguistic code. The story of the Denver airport is complete. It is a terrifying warning built in plain sight, a monument to the coming apocalypse. In Part 12, we will finally summarize the entire case, offer the final chilling conclusion, and issue a direct challenge to the viewer to go back and look at the world around them. Because the conspiracy is much closer than they think. I've taken you on a long, terrifying journey. We started with the colossal, unexplained budget overruns and the Masonic signature on the Cornerstone. We dug deep into the earth to find the fortified, multi-story D.U.M.B tunnels and the sealed-off sections built for biowarfare filtration. We analyzed the apocalyptic murals showing mass death and the rise of a single military force. And we recognized the guardian in the form of Blucifer, the horse that took a life for its unveiling. The evidence is overwhelming. The Denver airport is not a flawed piece of infrastructure. It is a textbook example of a shadow government project, a monumental symbol of the New World Order's arrogance and control. The true purpose of the construction was never about facilitating air travel. It was about building an ark for the elite, a centralized command center to survive and manage the global catastrophe they believe is imminent. Or perhaps the one they plan to orchestrate. But the most terrifying part of this entire conspiracy is the curse of the design rules itself. The globalists were so confident, so convinced of their inevitable victory, that they literally felt they could boast about their plans in plain sight. They didn't just build a secret base. They built a spiritual talisman, consecrated with dark art, Latin codes, and occult geometry. They believed that by carving their intentions into the structure, they were guaranteeing their success and ensuring the world would passively accept its fate. I recall the silence in those deep, sealed tunnels, the silence of a facility waiting to be filled. The whispers from the whistleblowers, the custodians, the electricians, the builders like me, confirm that the conspiracy is actively maintained. The security is still tight. The secrecy is still enforced. The truth is protected not just by concrete but by fear. Now the burden of knowledge falls on you, the listener. We've exposed the architectural lies, the political motives, and the spiritual codes. We know that the tunnels exist, that the art predicts catastrophe, and that the financial backers are preparing for a world without democracy. The time for passive observation is over. The challenge is no longer to find the conspiracy. The challenge is to act on the knowledge of it. This leads us to the final chilling conclusion, the core lesson of this entire investigation. The last rule of the design rules is that nothing is accidental. Every dollar spent, every grotesque mural painted, every piece of steel welded into those forbidden tunnels had a purpose. The biggest lie wasn't the baggage system. The biggest lie is that you, the passenger, are safe. You are not safe. You are simply permitted access to the shell that protects their ultimate sanctuary. The Denver airport is a warning built in plain sight. It is proof that a powerful organization believes they have the right to decide who lives and who dies in the next great global crisis. The murals are their prophecy. The bunker is their survival plan. So what do you do with this knowledge? You can dismiss it as a conspiracy theory. Or you can accept that the most frightening truths are often the ones deliberately made to sound the most unbelievable. You have seen the evidence. You know about the tunnels. You know about the curse. I am just a former foreman. I did my job and I walked away, but I cannot stay silent. My hope is that the sheer weight of these documented facts, the money, the geometry, the art, and the terrifying whispers of the builders, We'll finally force the public to demand answers from the organizations named on that cornerstone. Do not let the globalists win by your silence. Do not let the curse of the design rules stand unchallenged. The fight is not in the tunnels. The fight is in the light of public awareness. If you have worked at DIA, if you know anything about the structures beneath the main terminals, or if you can decipher the cryptic language in those murals, we urge you to share your knowledge. Use your voice. Look at the shadows behind the headlines. They built their bunker, but they underestimated the power of the public to expose the truth. Look at the symbols around you. Question the excessive. Expose the secrets. The next time you fly through Denver Airport, remember that you are walking on the roof of a giant waiting to be unleashed. Thank you for listening. The investigation into the haunting case of Denver Airport continues.